Welcome to the Alive Better channel. I hope you are doing wonderfully well. My friends, the fast pace of the modern world presents us with a paradoxical reality. We live in an era of greater abundance of opportunities, information, and possibilities than humanity has ever known. However, this seemingly positive excess has generated a silent epidemic of overload, distraction, and a chronic feeling of emptiness. We find ourselves constantly busy, rushing from one task to another, but at the end of the day, or of life, we have the unsettling realization that we have not progressed in what truly matters. It is in this context that the philosophy of essentialism, developed by Greg McKeown in his book, emerges not as just another productivity tip, but as a true manifesto for a meaningful life. Essentialism goes against the cultural tide that glorifies doing for the sake of doing. It proposes a radical paradigm shift. It is not about doing more things more efficiently, but about doing only the right things. It is a systematic and continuous discipline of discerning what is absolutely vital and having the courage to deliberately eliminate everything else. In this way, we can channel our most precious energy, our time and attention, to contribute in the best possible way to the few things that really make a difference. To understand the depth and urgency of essentialism, it is crucial to first recognize the danger of the opposite path, what McKeown calls the non-essentialist trajectory. This persona is driven by internalized and socially reinforced beliefs, such as the idea that I must do everything, that everything is important, and that I can have and do all things. This individual operates on autopilot, saying yes to virtually every request, invitation, or demand that comes their way, driven by the fear of disappointing others, missing a unique opportunity, or being excluded from the group. The inevitable result is a life of diluted efforts. Their energy is sprayed in dozens of different directions, like an open hose with no focus, watering everything superficially without deeply watering any roots. The non-essentialist's agenda becomes a mirror of other people's priorities, a collage of commitments that do not reflect their deepest values. They are always on the move, always busy, but rarely moving toward a meaningful goal. The treadmill metaphor is perfect. Lots of noise, lots of movement, but no real progress. The consequence is exhaustion, frustration, and the feeling that life is slipping through their fingers. The essentialist's mind, in contrast, operates from a place of clarity and personal power. The central question that guides every decision is simply this: am I investing my time and energy in the most important thing I could be doing right now? This question acts as a rigorous filter, separating the signal from the noise. The founding principle that guides this mindset is less, but better. This is not a mere defense of minimalism or a renunciation for the sake of austerity. It is, above all, a qualitative pursuit of excellence and impact. Science and experience corroborate that the dispersion of resources leads to widespread mediocrity, while concentration on a few fronts generates exponential and innovative results. Imagine a laser. Its power comes from focusing on an infinitesimal point. Similarly, when we concentrate our time, mental energy, and financial resources on a drastically reduced number of initiatives, the quality of our work and the depth of our contribution reach a whole new level. A classic metaphor illustrates this principle indelibly. Suppose you have an empty jar, some large stones, several pebbles, and a bucket of sand. If you start by filling the jar with sand, then add the pebbles, you will discover, frustrated, that there is no room for the large rocks. They simply do not fit. However, if you have the wisdom to start by placing the large rocks inside the jar, something magical happens. The pebbles and sand fill the empty spaces between them. The jar is full, and the essentials have been accommodated. In our lives, the large stones represent our fundamental priorities, our health, our most cherished family relationships, our primary work purpose, our own personal development. Everything else, the emails, social media, mandatory but meaningless commitments, endless meetings, is the pebbles and sand. If we do not intentionally prioritize the large rocks, our existence will be completely filled with the trivial, leaving no room for what gives weight and meaning to our journey. The practice of essentialism is not a one-time event, but a cyclical and iterative process consisting of 3 interconnected steps: discern, eliminate, and execute. The first step, discern, is the foundation of everything. It is the courage to stop and question, to step away from day-to-day operations, to gain altitude and perspective. In a world that values incessant action, deep reflection is a revolutionary act. The essentialist deliberately sets aside time in their schedule for solitude, for productive leisure, for reading without interruptions. It's in these moments of apparent pause that the noise of urgency quiets and the voice of importance can be heard. A powerful tool at this stage is the exercise of extremes. If I could accomplish only one thing in the coming year, what would have the greatest positive impact on my life? If I could devote myself to a single project in my career, what would it be? This question forces a level of clarity that cuts like a scalpel through the fog of possibilities. In addition, the essentialist works to define a concise and inspiring essential purpose, a North Star that guides their decisions in moments of doubt. They are not a passive collector of tasks, but an active curator of their own existence. The second step, eliminate, is where theory meets practice and where courage is truly tested. What good is discerning what is not essential if we do not have the strength to get rid of these burdens? McKeown is categorical in stating that an unspoken no today to a non-essential opportunity is, in reality, an automatic and enthusiastic yes to an essential opportunity that will arise in the future. Learning to say no is therefore the essentialist's ultimate superpower. He understands that yes and no are 2 sides of the same coin. Every time he says yes to something unimportant, he's voting against something that is fundamental. Saying no, however, does not have to be synonymous with rudeness. It can be done with elegance and firmness. Strategies such as postponing the answer, saying, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you," or expressing gratitude followed by refusal, such as, "I greatly appreciate the invitation and value your trust, but my current obligations do not allow me to make this commitment with the quality it deserves," are extremely effective. Elimination also applies to projects, habits, and even relationships that no longer serve our essential purpose. The essentialist does not fall into the trap of sunk costs, the tendency to continue down the wrong path simply because they have already invested so much in it. They have the humility and wisdom to cut their losses and redirect their resources to where they really matter. Finally, the third step is execute. Many think that execution is about raw willpower and iron discipline. Essentialism proposes a more intelligent and sustainable view. Execution should be effortless, facilitated by well-designed systems. Once the essential priority has been identified, the key question is, what is the minimum obstacle, the smallest barrier that is preventing progress? Instead of setting vague and grandiose goals, such as write a book, the essentialist breaks the path down into tiny, inevitable steps, creating a list of minimum progress, such as write 1 paragraph per day. Celebrating these micro-victories generates powerful psychological momentum. Another pillar of essential execution is the creation of margins. Our culture pushes us to fill every minute of our schedule. But the essentialist understands that buffers, blank spaces between appointments, planned free time, are not a luxury, but a strategic necessity. It is these margins that absorb the unexpected, prevent the domino effect of delays, and allow for the depth of thought necessary for essential work. Execution, therefore, ceases to be a daily battle against time and becomes a natural flow, because the architecture of our life has been redesigned to make the essential path the easiest and most obvious one to follow. Applying essentialism is an act of resistance against a culture that venerates being busy as an emblem of importance. For the essentialist, an overcrowded schedule is a symptom of lack of clarity and prioritization, not a trophy. In the corporate environment, this philosophy translates into shorter meetings with clear agendas and the right participants, emails that are direct and have an explicit purpose, and, crucially, the creation of an organizational culture where it is safe and encouraged to refuse demands that are misaligned with the team's core objectives. On a personal level, essentialism manifests itself in the courage to turn off digital notifications, to drastically reduce social commitments that only consume energy without nourishing the soul, and to devote quality distraction-free time to the people and activities that truly revitalize us and bring us joy. Ultimately, adopting essentialism means embarking on a continuous process of editing your own life. It is a daily practice, a muscle that needs to be exercised constantly. The reward, however, is the deepest one you can aspire to: authentic freedom. By stopping trying to please everyone and pursuing every single opportunity, the essentialist regains sovereignty over their own choices. They exchange the diffuse anxiety of having a world of options for the deep satisfaction that comes from mastery in an area that truly matters. Their life ceases to be an endless and stressful list of tasks and becomes a coherent and intentional narrative, a journey of unique contribution. Greg McKeown's invitation is, at its core, a call for a silent revolution. It is an invitation to step off the frantic treadmill and choose, with deliberation and courage, which mountain is worth investing all our energy in climbing. Because it is in the disciplined pursuit of less that we discover the space clarity and strength to live a life that is not only efficient or successful by others' standards, but one that is deeply meaningful and truly our own. If you liked it, give it a like. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive notifications of new videos. Leave your questions and suggestions for future topics in the comments and share this content with your friends. A big hug and see you next time for more wisdom. Thanks.